Dear students, welcome. This is CBSE Maths Class 5, Chapter 1. We are on the topic of fish tails, and this chapter has three objectives. The first objective is to help students from a very young age understand the importance of preserving nature. Taking from nature, of course, we take from nature. Nature is like our mother, it's a source of income and livelihood for a lot of people. But when we take from nature, we have to do it in a way that does not destroy nature so that it's available, the resources are available for future generations as well. So that's your first objective. The second objective is to show you all the power of mathematical operations, basic mathematical operations like um, multiplication, division, subtraction, addition. These are the same mathematical operations that a lot of people use in their everyday lives. A person who owns a big restaurant, your carpenter, a person, a civil engineer who makes huge structures, the vast majority of these people only use these four basic arithmetic operations. And we are in our third objective, we are going to see how fisher women from South India, they decide to start a fish drying factory and how they use these basic math operations to set up a fish drying factory. So that's what we're going to finish with, and that's our knowledge application part. So let's begin. Fishermen in their boats. We have two types of boats here. So what we're trying to do is we're going to understand their lives, the lives of fishermen or fisherwomen, and we're going to do this in the form of some interesting problems. So the first problem is, these problems are going to be based on, one is the speed of the boat, the first part, and the amount of fish that can be caught in each trip. So fishermen and their boats. So you have two kinds of boats here. One is without the motor, and the other one is with the motor. And without the motor, again, you have two kinds of boats. One is a log boat, the other one is called a long boat. With motor, you have a motor boat, and the second type of boat is called a machine boat. How are they different? They're different in terms of the speed at which they travel and the amount of fish that can be transported in every trip. So when you start with the log boat travels at 4 kilometers per hour and it can transport 20 kgs of fish per trip. Your second boat can travel at 12 kilometers per hour and transport 600 kgs of fish in a minute. Your third boat can travel at 20 kilometers per hour and can transport 800 kgs of fish in a trip. And your fourth boat, the machine boat, this can travel at a speed of this boat can travel at a speed of 22 kilometers per hour, and it can bring along 6,000 kgs of fish in one trip. Now, the first three boats, they don't spend a lot of time in the sea. They may go in the morning and come back by afternoon or latest by evening. The fourth type of boat, the machine boat, that boat can spend close to 15 days in the sea. So when they come back, they preserve the fish in ice, and when they come back with a lot of fish. So your first problem here deals with a log boat. It does not go very far, like we have already mentioned. 4 kilometers per hour, that is under very helpful conditions. The question here is, how long does it take to travel? How long does this boat take to go 10 kilometers? So the approach here can be a very straightforward approach, but let's take a more methodical approach. What is a straightforward approach? Something that you can do mentally. 4 kilometers per hour, and you want to travel a distance of 10 kilometers, and how long does it take? So 4 kilometers, 1 hour, another 4 kilometers, 1 more hour, so that's 8 kilometers. You have an additional 2 kilometers to go, so it takes another half an hour. So 2.5 hours you can travel 10 kilometers. That's a very straightforward approach which you can do in your mind. But in maths, what we try to do is we try to find out patterns so that we can generalize it quickly. Now, if I ask you, how long does it take to travel, let's say 17 kilometers or 23 kilometers? Now that's going to be tough to do a quick mental calculation. So if we can find the time it takes to travel 1 kilometer, so if we can find the time it takes to travel 1 kilometer, then it's very easy. That time multiplied by the number of kilometers is going to give you the time taken for any distance in question. So here given the speed of the boat is 4 kilometers per hour, can we interpret this information in a more useful way? Nothing much, 4 kilometers in 1 hour. So what do we do? 4 kilometers in 1 hour. So we convert that hour into minutes, 60 minutes. So 1 kilometer in 15 minutes. Now it's very easy, because if 4 kilometers is traveled in 1 hour and you try and divide 1 hour by 4, you get 0.25 hours. Now that becomes a decimal number, very difficult to handle very intuitively. So we find it easier, much easier here, to convert that 1 hour into minutes, and then we have the time taken for a unit distance that is traveled, 1 kilometer, 15 minutes. Calculations now become very easy from here on. 10 kilometers will take 15 minutes into 10, that is 150 minutes. Now, to get the answer in hours, you just divide. So 150 minutes, 60 minutes in an hour. So if you want the answer in hours, you just divide 150 by 60 and you will get 2.5 hours. Okay, so that's one way of representing your answer. The other way is you divide 150 by 60. The quotient that you get becomes your hours, and the remainder that you get is your minutes. So when you divide 150 by 60, 62s are 120. 60 times 2 is 120. 30 remains. So that's 2 hours and 30 minutes. So you can represent the answer in two ways here, either in hours or in hours and minutes. So 17 kilometers, once again, 17 into 15 is 255 minutes, and 255 minutes. So that's, again, you divide that by 60, you get 4.25 hours of, if you divide by 60 and if you go for the quotient, you get 4 and the remainder is 15, which becomes your minutes. So 4 hours and 15 minutes. So rather than solving a specific case, we took a more general approach here. This is a very powerful tool in mathematics, the generalization approach. So when you solve a specific problem, each time you're faced with that problem, you have to do that rigorous calculation all over again. But if you find some easy formula, you can quickly apply it across different types of cases. So rather than solving a specific case here, we have taken a more general approach. This also gives us an additional insight, the way we have done it. We have first found out the answer in hours, and then we converted it into hours and minutes. So you have got your first introduction to unit conversions as well. It's going to be very helpful in the future. Next, we take the case of a motorboat. Here the speed is 20 kilometers per hour, and the questions, we have two questions here. How far does that boat travel in 3.5 hours, and how much time to go 85 kilometers? Two questions. How far does the boat travel in 3.5 hours? 20 kilometers in 1 hour. How far does it travel in 3.5 hours? How much time does it take to travel 85 kilometers? Let's solve the first case. So part A we'll solve by this very intuitive approach, wherein you can do this quick mental math and arrive at the answer. And part B we'll use two approaches. As in part A, we'll take a more generalized approach. So as in part A, we'll take an intuitive approach, and then we will solve it using a more generalized approach as well. So solution to part A, given that the speed of the boat is 20 kilometers per hour, we again rewrite the calculation so that it makes it easier to calculate the distance. So 20 kilometers in 1 hour, so in 3.5 hours, 20 kilometers, 20 kilometers, 20 kilometers. So that is 60 kilometers in 3 hours, and in half an hour, and the 10 kilometers. The answer is 70 kilometers. That's your intuitive approach, very easy. Now for part 2, so with a speed of 20 kilometers per hour, the boat will be traveling 70 kilometers in 3.5 hours. So in part B, what are we going to do? Our first approach, since we want to find the time taken for a certain distance, it will be a good idea to convert this information into unit distance traveled in a certain time. So if you understand the distance that is traveled, for the time taken to travel 1 kilometer, then using that information, you can quickly multiply and get your answer for any distance. So 1 kilometer takes X minutes, then 10 kilometers takes 10 into x minutes, 10 times that duration. So once again, steps 20 kilometers in 1 hour, that means 20 kilometers in 6 minutes. So 1 kilometer, the boat takes 3 minutes to travel 1 kilometer. 20 kilometers, once again, kids, 20 kilometers in 1 hour. So 20 kilometers in 60 minutes. So each kilometer, the boat takes 3 minutes to travel. From here, it's very easy. 85 kilometers means 85 into 3, which is 255 minutes. Divide that by 60, you get 4.25 hours, means 4.25 hours. 4.25 hours. What is a quarter hour? 15 minutes. 1 full hour is 60 minutes. So a quarter hour, 1/4 is 15. So 4 hours and 15 minutes. That's your first approach. Your second approach is the more intuitive or mental approach that I just mentioned. 20 kilometers in 1 hour and 5 kilometers. So 5 kilometers takes 15 minutes. 20 kilometers in 1 hour and 5 kilometers. So we have to travel a distance of 85 kilometers. So 20, 20, 20, 20. That makes it 80 minutes for, so 80 kilometers, you take 4 hours. And an additional 5 kilometers, you take 15 minutes. The answer is 4 hours, 15 minutes. That's your intuitive way of solving this problem. So with a speed of 20 kilometers per hour, the boat will travel 85 kilometers in 4.5 hours, or 4 and 1/4 hours. Sorry for that mistake. 4 and 1/4 hours, or 4 hours and 15 minutes. Now, the next part of the problem, what I've done is I have tabulated all the information. So what's the information that's given to us? We know we know the speed of the boat. We have done problems based on that. And now the additional information that we are going to use is the amount of fish that each boat can carry in a single trip. So the logboat, in one trip, it can carry 20 kgs and it travels at 4 kilometers per hour. Long tail boat, 600 kgs and travels at a speed of 12 kilometers per hour. Your motorboat, although smaller in size compared to a long tail boat, but it can carry 800 kgs and it can travel at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. Your machine boat can travel at 22 kilometers per hour and it can bring back 6,000 kgs in a single trip. Now let's do some problems based on this. So how much, your first problem is, how much will each type of boat bring back in 7 trips? Very easy. It's a straightforward multiplication. So 20 fish logboat, 20 kgs in one trip, in 7 trips, 20 times 7 is 140. Long tail boat, 600 kgs per trip, 600 into 7 is 4,200 kgs in 7 trips. Motorboat, 800 kgs per trip, 800 into 7 is 5,600 kgs in 7 trips. Machine boat, 6,000 kgs per trip, 6,000 into 7 is 42,000 kgs in 7 trips. Second part of the problem is, how far can a motorboat go in 6 hours? Very easy. Once again, 6 hours, the distance traveled is 20 into 6, which is 120 kilometers. So the third question is, if a long tail boat travels 60 kilometers, how long will it take? So we're going to take the more intuitive approach. Speed we know is 12 kilometers per hour. So if it travels 12 kilometers in 1 hour and it has traveled a total distance of 60 kilometers, that means the total distance divided by the speed at which it is traveling per hour gives us the total duration. 60 divided by 12 is 5 hours. So we are on the final question of boats. 2 lakh boats in India, half of which don't have a motor. 1/4 boats with a motor are big machine boats. How many boats with motor? How many machine boats? Straightforward. So if half boats don't have a motor, half of the boats have a motor. Total boats is 2 lakhs. So 1 lakh has a motor, 1 lakh does not have that, does not have the motor. One fourth of the boats with motor are big machine boats. How many machine boats? 1 lakh. One fourth of that is 25,000. So 25,000 boats are machine boats. So now we move on to the application part where the fisherwomen are going to become business women. So they are going to set up a business. So when you have a business, you need a bank because you need money. You need that bank to give you money easily, which is not very easy. So let's see how they go about this problem. So let's understand their lives through some problems here. First, earnings from daily sales of fish. They're going to set up a mean car bank. Mean car is a Malayalam word. Mean means fish. Car means people who deal with mean car. Mean car, that's the way it's pronounced. Mean car are the people who deal with fish, be it selling, catching fish, selling fish, doing all kinds of fish processing. They all come under that particular umbrella term called a mean car in Malayalam. And they're going to set up a fish drying factory. Why? Because when you want to preserve fish for a long time, if you remove the water out of the fish, which means if you dry the fish, then chemical reactions cannot happen in the fish and that fish will not spoil. It can be stored for a long time. Okay, so that's their whole business plan. They are first going to estimate their daily, how much they are earning from daily sales of fish. Then they will collect some money. They'll set up a bank, collect some money, put it into that bank. When they have enough money, they will set up a fish drying factory. So that's your mean car bank, and we are going to start with the first part of the problem. 20 fisherwomen, they decide to start a bank. Monthly contribution by each fisherwoman to the bank is 25 rupees. After a while, the mean car bank has 75,000 rupees. Keep this number in mind because we are going to need this number when they start a business. So the first question is, what is the monthly contribution or collection? We have 20 fisherwomen. 25 rupees per fisherwoman is saved to the bank. So how much is the monthly contribution? It's an easy multiplication. 25 into 20, which is 500 rupees. Second part of the question. What is the yearly contribution or collection? So 500 rupees they collect in a month. How much will they collect in a year? There are 12 months in a year. So 500 into 12 is rupees 6,000. Now, can a group of individuals start a bank? Yes, they can. And such banks that are started by a group of individuals or a financial institute that caters to a certain group of individuals, they are called cooperative banks. It becomes much easier to take a loan out of such banks. And we look at the advantages of starting such a bank as well. This brings us to the third part of the question. Gracie now, she wants to buy a net. She took loan of rupees 4,000. She paid back the loan in a year by paying rupees 345 per month. So she took a loan of 4,000. She paid back 345 rupees per month in a year. What is the amount paid back to the bank? So the amount that is paid back to the bank is the amount paid per month, which is 345 rupees into 12. That totals to 4,140. Remember, she took 4,000 rupees from the bank. So the bank here has earned a profit of 4,140 minus 4,000, which is rupees 140. So that's how banks make money. Jansi took a loan of rupees 21,000 now. So now people are taking bigger loans. So Gracie was the first one. She took a loan of rupees 4,000 to buy a net. Now they're learning the business. Each of these fisherwomen, they're doing small things. They've not started the the fish drying factory as yet. Smaller people are, individual people are mustering the courage to take small amounts from the bank and set up their own small little business. So in this case, Gracie, she was the first to start. She took 4,000 rupees. Next is Jhansi. She looked at Gracie. She saw that Gracie was able to pay back the money to the bank. That gave her the courage to take 21,000 rupees from the bank, loan of 21,000 rupees, and she paid the bank back rupees 23,520 in 1 year. How much did she pay per month? Now, they've not told here what exact business Jhansi did with the money that she took from the bank. It could have been a non-fishing business as well. So the total amount that she took from the bank, and you divide that by 12, that comes to around 1,960 rupees per month. That is what she paid back to the bank. This is again a very easy calculation. So what are the advantages of starting a bank? Firstly, it ensures regular savings, which means 20 fisherwomen putting 25 rupees per month back into the bank. That will ensure that they save a certain amount for future needs. So that's a good practice. And second is you can access, so an individual can access large sums of money, which otherwise is so difficult to get when you start a business. An individual or even a group of business, you have access to a lot of money. Now, we come to the part of the problem where we are trying to create a fish drying factory. So think of what you will need to start this factory. Okay? So you're going to need fish for sure. You need material to clean that fish, right? So you need water, you need bucket, you need your rack. Bamboo racks are what they usually use, and you need a knife for sure. Then you need cement tanks. Why do you need cement tanks? In these cement tanks, you're going to fill salt water and you're going to dip the fishes into the salt water. What does salt water do? Salt will pull out that excess water from the body of the fish. That's how it dries the fish. Okay, so although it's in water, but the water being very salty compared to your salt water that you find in the sea, this water is going to be much more saltier than that, and this will draw out all the salt from the fish. So that's how that's why they need the cement tank, and they're going to need salt also. And then you have these larger racks on which you're going to, so the earlier rack that we saw, that will be used for cleaning the fish, and this large bamboo racks will then be used for drying the fish. So now they want to find out how much money they need to start this factory. So Fazila, she starts things off. What she does is she writes the things that they need to buy to begin. She makes a neat table. So that's what you should always do when you have to deal with a lot of calculations. If you are able to make a nice neat table, it helps you to manage those calculations better. So she tries to find out the unit price. So the price for one bamboo rack, or the price for one bucket, price for one tray and knife. So she makes a list of all that, and then of course she's going to make another list of how many of each you require. So that will help all the fisherwomen understand how much money they require to just get things started. That's your basic first investment, and then they will look into the bank savings, whether the bank has enough reserve or enough money to fund their project. So in this case, borewell. So they need a borewell for fresh water, because they need water at the site. They can't always go and fetch water from a distance and come. So the best way is to have a borewell close by. So the borewell is going to cost rupees 3,000. The bamboo rack for fish drying is going to cost them rupees 2,000 per rack. The cement tank is going to cost them around 1,000 rupees to set up one cement tank. Tray and knife is going to be around 300 rupees per tray and knife, and the bucket is going to cost them around 75 rupees per bucket. Next, we need to know the number of units that will be required of each. So they will require one bore well, 20 bamboo rack for fish drying, 4 cement tanks, 20 trays and knives, and 20 buckets. Calculate the cost now. You just have to multiply your unit price column with the number of items that against it. So bore well for fresh water is going to cost them 3,000. Bamboo rack for fish drying is going to cost them 40,000. Your cement tank is going to cost 4,000. Tray and knife is going to cost 6,000. Your bucket is going to cost a total of 1,500. Work all that up. That comes to a total of 54,500. This is just to get the business started. There are more things. Okay. So this initial cost for setting up a business is called capital investment. The capital investment is that investment in which it's mostly a one-time investment. You don't have to keep investing. So that's usually the first step while starting a business, to calculate your capital investment. The next step is then your recurring investment. So who's the main player in this business? It's fish. You're going to have to purchase fish every time. Also, you need salt for drying. So you're going to have to purchase salt. You have to transport the fish. So transportation charges are also a recurring charge. So then we put both these together, your recurring charges and your capital investment. We put both that together, and then we get an understanding of how much initial investment you need. So your capital investment is always there at the start, but the recurring investment is also an initial investment that you need to get the business started. So from fisher women to business women, let's see if they can do it. Women want to set up a new fish drying factory. When fish is dried, it becomes 1/3 its weight. So when fish is dried, it becomes 1/3 its weight. This information is again important because when you're starting a business, you will usually sell the fish by weight. So when it's wet, it has a certain weight, and then when you dry it, it has a certain weight. So you need to know the dry weight of that fish also. So it's roughly 1/3 when it's dried, when all its water is taken out, because 66% of our body is water, which you can take any living organism. 66% is water. So if you take out 66%, that is 2/3. Remaining 33 or 34% is 1/3. So that's where that number comes from. So cost of fresh fish is rupees 15 per kg, and the cost of dried fish is 70 rupees per kg. So when fish is dried, it becomes 1/3 its weight. Now you may wonder that why is the fresh fish 15 rupees per kg, and why is dry fish 70 rupees per kg? It seems like a steep rise, but remember, to give you 1 kg of dry fish, 1 kg of dry fish, you will need approximately 3 kgs of fresh fish. So that's 45 rupees right there. So 45 rupees of your 45 rupees of your fresh fish gives you 70 rupees of dry fish. Don't worry about the background noise. Salt is rupees 2 per kg, so that's around 1,500 kgs per month, and packing and transport is again 3,000 rupees per month. So now it's time to put all this together. So calculate the profit earned by fisher women per month. So we begin with fresh fish. 6,000 kgs of fresh fish is going to give us 2,000 kgs of dry fish. So the cost of fresh fish is total fresh fish in kgs, and the cost per kg is 15 rupees. Multiply that. So 90,000 rupees of fresh fish is what they need to buy per month. Additional cost is that of salt and transport. So salt is 2 rupees per kg. So 1,500 kgs are required per month, and you have to multiply the two. So 1,500 into 2, cost of salt will be 3,000 kgs per month, and your packing and transport again is 3,000 per month. So you just add that right away. It's not based on weight, so you can add that directly, 3,000. So the total monthly cost incurred will be the cost of your fish, which is 90,000 rupees, the cost of salt, which is 3,000, and the cost of transport again is 3,000. So 96,000 rupees is your total monthly cost that will be incurred. This is your cost. This is the cost that is going to which fisher women will have to put out of their pockets every month. And what is your money from the sale of dry fish? So total dry fish cost per kg. So you will get 2000 kgs of dry fish. Your cost per kg is 70 rupees. Multiply the two, you get 1,40,000 rupees fresh fish. So the monthly earnings will be the money that they get from selling the finished product, which is your dry fish. You take that amount that they earn and you subtract it from the cost of your fresh fish, the money that you required for processing, and the money that you required for transport. Add those together and subtract it from the money that you got from the sales of the dry fish. That's your net profit. So that's going to be 1,40,000 as we calculated in step B, and subtract that from what you got in step A, which is 90,000. So they earned around 44,000 rupees. They stand to earn around 44,000 rupees per month. Now, the important takeaway here is that this exercise is an early introduction to how business is done. This is something you kids need to understand, how businesses are run, because tomorrow you are the future entrepreneurs. So it's a good effort on the part of CBSE to frame problems like this where you can apply the maths that you learn to a real life problem. So this will instill a sense of entrepreneurship in kids. So once again, two types of costs. So you need to understand any business that you start. You have two types of costs. One is your capital investment that goes into your initial setup. It could be machinery, it could be furniture, and the recurring cost, which is for the raw material, transport, etc. The demand for products and its average price varies throughout the year, and that is an additional factor you may have to consider in your business. So anyway, this is a very good start towards an understanding of how businesses are done and run. I hope you all enjoyed this. I'll see you all in the next one.